Wednesday, everybody. So we are starting our walkthroughs for NetSuite. There will actually be 7 assignments associated with this, so it's not quite half the semester, but it will be a big part of the semester. I do want to caution you as we're going through this that I do think it's really important to take detailed notes on this, especially when I stop and talk about the concepts behind an item. If I say, why are we doing this procedure? That is likely to be something that I will ask a question about. So I don't know that I will ask as many questions. I will maybe ask a few questions on what we did in a specific spot. But for the most part, if we stop and I talk about a specific area and say, let's talk about why we're doing this or what needs to be set up in a particular area, I think that's really important from the perspective of this course to know. So detailed notes, if you want to take them by hand, great. If you want to take them on the computer, that's good too. I'm going to go through this really slowly. And even so, even though I'm going to go through it really slowly, you will find there will be very few inputs. I think one course legitimately you can finish the assignment with 3 mouse clicks. So the number of inputs is not what's critical here. The rationale and the reasoning behind everything that we're doing is really what the important takeaways are here. So make sure that you understand something. If I get too far ahead, which is unlikely, because like I said, I do this really slowly, but if I get too far ahead, you need an explanation for something, don't hesitate to stop and tell me. The reason that we actually have the entire class period to do such a minimal amount of items is I want everybody to be able to complete this together. All right. So please make sure that you are ready with your questions. The very first thing we're going to do is we are going to go log in, or we're going to go get to NetSuite. So the easy answer to this or easy point about this is that we're just going to go to netsuite.com. That's all you're going to do is type in there. I would keep your Brightspace open, by the way, because we may be referring back to some files over there. But yeah, netsuite.com is where our first stop is. Now, as I said before, this is an ERP system that's online and available. You may have actually seen some commercials about it. It's very interesting because whenever I do start doing NetSuite prep and I start watching some old videos to get prepared for this, I've noticed that NetSuite videos start popping up on my YouTube feed. There's one really common one about a pumpkin company that is responsible for pumpkin farming, and the lady that's on there talks about how she uses NetSuite for all day-to-day operations. So don't be surprised if that starts coming up in your feed. That's also for those of you who are accounting majors, you'll see Becker commercials start coming up as well. So yeah, it's just the nature of the beast. But yeah, it's an ERP system that is for kind of small to mid-sized company use. This is where you've kind of gone past the need for something like QuickBooks. QuickBooks is very, very simple, simplistic level. Because you need something that's kind of a more enterprise solution. And so that's what NetSuite provides. Even though we're going to be doing very minimal and very remedial tasks in here, or I say remedial, I meant menial tasks. Keep in mind that there is a larger purpose for everything that we're doing. It's to understand the basic concepts. What we're going to be learning in this course is a template for your greater learning if you ever decide to use this. I know that there's a big demand out there for people who are skilled in ERP knowledge. I'm not going to classify anybody, including myself, as experts by the time we're done. I will say that you will have more knowledge than most of your peers that are at other institutions. So you should feel pretty good about this. All right. So first thing you're going to do is you're going to click on Login. And it's going to open up a new window. We're just going to have the NetSuite login right over here. So these are the 2 pieces of information that I've talked about already, but I want to allude back here. You're going to have an email address. This is not your email address. All right. This is not your email address. If you type that in there, you're going to be very frustrated. So it should look something like this. It's going to be 2024-09-1000, and then it's going to be some 2-digit numbers. Everybody has got a different assignment here. Please make sure you type in the number exactly. Some people's email addresses that are assigned for sign-ins here are going to be 1 digit different from yours. So if you type in the wrong email address, you're going to block somebody else from access. So you need to do that. Type that in. You'll notice it's not even truman.edu. It's xtruman.edu, which is not a real domain. And then for the password, that is on Brightspace. And I showed you where it's at. It's on Brightspace under the content folder. That is our default password. That will change really quickly. Once you have those 2 pieces of information, go ahead and log in. So the very first thing we're going to do is we're going to set up our NetSuite account. And there's a few things that we've got to go ahead and we've got to set up. Now, this is one of the most important ones. It is not impossible to fix this, but it's just much, much easier to do this right from the first go. So remember, I talked about this in previous courses. I think I talked about this on Monday specifically. What role are we going to be playing in NetSuite? Does anybody remember? So we're gonna be the administrator role, okay? We're gonna be the administrator role. I saw a few hands go up after I started talking, apologize. So if you scroll down, you will notice that right in the middle, we've got administrator as one of the roles. So make sure that you line up your, or if you need to, you can go in the ruler to make sure you've got the right role, and we're gonna select administrator as our role, okay? And you just go ahead and identify that and click on it. This is an important choice to make because this actually affects our availability of everything that we're going to be doing moving forward. All right, and now we've got a good security system because it says, look, you can't use this password moving forward. So this is one point of where we have problems with cyber attacks in many companies is they don't have the users change their default passwords. So a lot of times cyber attacks occur on accounts where people find the sign-in address and you actually go and you create a new they don't create a new password, so they just use the default password and they get hacked according to that. So this is a good control. This is actually a really nice control for us to have. So we need to go ahead and create a new password. Please make sure that when you create this password, that you document your password somewhere and do not lose it. If you forget your password, we cannot recover it. We're not true Oracle clients. We can't go to Oracle and say, hey, my students forgot their password. Can you give it an update to me? We are guests on the NetSuite framework. So if you forget your password, you're out of luck. All right. Do I have some plans in place to fix that? Yes, but they are a little bit tedious. So I'm going to tell you right now, most important thing for this point right now, please make sure you document your password somewhere. You have it written down, okay? So that you don't forget it. If it's a password that you use all the time, shame on you. You're not supposed to repeat passwords, but at least that's an easy way not to forget it. Make sure you've got it written down. I've actually got mine documented somewhere, so I'm going to have it. So the old password is the one that was listed there. I just realized something. Let's see, hold on. I'm not sure that I've got that copy. Let's see, we'll find out. Okay. Be really, really embarrassed if this doesn't work. Oops. Passwords don't match. No problem. The problem with getting old is it's hard to type and talk at the same time. Okay. By the way, just so we know, my computer is going to probably go slower than yours, so you'll have to be patient with me when I run through routines. I will try to talk and give you additional information, but sometimes that won't work. All right. So if you've done this all correctly, we're going to be at security questions, which we are going to enter. This is another area. Please make sure you note this. Please document your answers to your security questions. Okay. Again, if you forget these and it comes up, because this is kind of their a multi-factor authentication check. Whenever you log in through a new device, frequently it will ask you for a security question in addition to your password. So please make sure that you document these as well. So you document your password and your answers to your security questions. So go ahead and fill those out. I was paranoid when I type these in, so I'm not going to show these for the video, but I also want to make sure I type them in because the typo could just be doom. Hasn't happened yet though. So once you've got those all entered in, you've got those documented so you don't forget them, go ahead and click on save. Give everybody a chance to catch up, and I'm going to talk a little bit while we're waiting for that to happen. Okay, so if you're still entering those, go ahead and continue doing those. What I'm about to tell you is not particularly important, but we're at their homepage right now. We're going to make some modifications to the homepage. The very first thing I want you to check, though, is I want you to check in the upper right-hand corner. It should have listed Catherine Glass as your name. That's the name of the administrator. And it should have OA ERP Basics as the company. All right. So we're going to change all of those items, but this is kind of our default to make sure that we're in the right spot. If you have anything different, this is the time to tell me something is wrong, Dr. Barnes, because if we move forward from here, you're not going to be able to do everything that we're doing. So yes. So we're supposed to have Catherine Glass and OAERP basics administrators. And if you've got all that, you're in good shape. If you don't have that, about it better stop me because none of it's going to make sense after this point if we're not in the same position. Okay, so we all good to go with passwords and security questions? Everybody feel pretty comfortable? Okay, all right. We'll hold on for just a second. So one of the nice things about NetSuite that we're going to find is that it's very adaptive to whatever our preferences are and whatever we want to set up. And that's basically all we're going to do today is we're going to set up a framework so we can actually create our own company and we can do the procedures that we need to do moving forward. Now, some of this is not going to be intuitively sensible because we're going to create a company that's domiciled in San Francisco, but we're actually going to set our location here as in Kirksville, Missouri, because we're in Central Mean Time. So let's go ahead and let's just go ahead and create some basic preferences, and we're also going to create some information on the front page to make the navigation a little bit easier. So this is our home page, and you can tell because it's a picture of a house right here. This is going to be our default where we're going to go to anytime that we get lost or anytime that we want to start on a new task. You're just going to click on that home icon. And as we're going to set it up, we're going to find it's very convenient for us to navigate from. So the very first thing I'd like to do is I'd like you to scroll all the way down to the bottom. And in settings down here at the very bottom left, you should see something called set preferences. And we're going to do that. We're going to go ahead and set preferences. Specifically, we're going to set one preference because I want to make sure that we're all consistent here. So we can change a lot of different things here. I want to change one. So under the general subtab, where it says time zone, so we're up here right at the top, we're going to scroll down to localization, time zone. We're currently set on Pacific time. Now, logically speaking, that should make sense because we're going to be operating as a company out of San Francisco, but I just want to kind of use this so that we can actually have times adjusted to what we're doing here in this classroom. So the way we're going to look at this is that you're a remote worker who works for a company in California, but you're in Kirksville, Missouri, okay? That'll be the way that this works logically speaking. So time zone, we're going to set this to 6 o'clock Central Time, US, Canada. Now, there's a lot of different things we can actually adjust here. That's the only one that you have to do for this particular item is to set the time here. But just for fun, let's go ahead and change the appearance, or I'm going to change the appearance from default because this is kind of I like blue. This is kind of a blue-gray, but you know we're at Truman State here, so I'm going to change this over to purple. You don't want to change it to purple, that's fine. If you want to change it to a different color or leave it as is, that's fine too. No, there's no reason to do this. The only thing you have to do here is change the time under the general tab. Once you've set your preferences and are happy with them, go ahead and click on Save. Lo and behold, my color has changed here. My color has changed. And we're now in the Central Time. Now, this home page is going to be very, very useful because it's going to actually help us navigate throughout NetSuite. Now, some of the navigation is really challenging at first because we have to know what the lists are for the drop-down menus. And what I mean is if you scroll across this Tools tab at the top, you will notice that when you highlight something, it creates a drop-down menu. And some of these drop-down menus are a little bit more challenging because we're going to be going to sub-menus within them. So if I scroll over, don't click on anything, just move your mouse. Scroll over, say I want to go to Documents, then Files and File Cabinet, which we'll do later. I have to actually go through a lot of scrolling to get there. The good news is when you start creating transactions later on, the way that we're about to set up our dashboard, we'll be able to automatically go to transactions directly from the home page. So this is why this is an important point. Now, there will be some other shortcuts that I'll show you here in a second, but let's go ahead and take a look and see where we're at here. So here we have this personalized, and you can actually do this in multiple ways. You can go from the personalized tool here, or you can actually go from to personalized dashboard in the settings. They do the same thing. Basically, what we're going to do is we're going to set up our standard content on our home page to things that we need to use for this particular course. So it starts out as standard content, and these are the items that are all available. And if they are grayed out, basically that means that these are items that are currently listed on our home page. So we can actually go on our currently used, and it shows you all the things that are listed there. I want to add a few things in this order, by the way. I want you to do it in this order because I want to actually have access to them within the home page. So let's go ahead and select a few items. Let's go ahead and click on Calendar and click one time, and you should notice that the number in the upper right-hand corner should change from 4 to 3. Okay. That basically means that we could use four instances of calendar on our homepage for 4 different items. We're only going to use one. We're only going to need one. Then scroll over to the right. You can see there's an arrow over there that you can click over there. And we're going to find something called Key Performance Indicator, or Key Performance Indicators. And I want you to click on that as well. See, I think over even further to the right from Key Performance Indicators, we have something called New Release. Go ahead and click on that. Now we're going to scroll over to the left. And the reason that we're doing this in this order is because the items that we're listing, they're getting put onto the home page at the top and they're going in descending order. So these next two are going to be our most important ones. This is why we're doing these last. I want you to click on Recent Records. And finally, we're going to scroll over and we're going to click on Shortcuts. Now, if you did not follow every single point of that, do not worry. This is not stuff that's going to affect your ability to process. It's just going to make things a lot more convenient for you later on. So now we can actually see that all these items that we just added in here got added up here. Key Performance Indicators, the calendar was added, a new calendar instance was added. We got Recent Records, New Release, and Shortcuts all listed up there. So we're pretty happy. We can go ahead and close this just by clicking on the X right here. And your homepage, the layout has changed a little bit because of those items that we've added. And the two most important ones that we're going to be using almost exclusively for our record transactions are going to be Shortcuts and then really importantly, Recent Records. Recent Records should be in your upper left-hand corner. Now, the good news is that for some reason, Recent Records is not right here. There are two things you can do. First, there's actually a Recent Records dropdown that you can use from the toolbar. If for somehow you lose that, but let's say you do have Recent Records in your homepage and you wanted to move it further up front, we can drag and move any of these items that we like just by clicking on the top of the bar and just dragging them across. But this is where I'd like to have Recent Records, because every time we create a transaction, it's going to have a list of that new transaction, and these transactions will chain together with one another. So we're not going to actually be doing a transaction today. We're still doing company setup, but we will start looking at some basic transactions next week. All right. Now, okay, everybody good so far? All right. Now we're going to change some things, okay? Because none of us in this room, to my knowledge, is Catherine Glass. If that happens to be your name, well, this will be really easy for you. But for most of us, that is not our name. So we're going to change some things. So this is where we're going to go to our first drop-down menu. I want you to scroll over, not click on, Lists. Once you have the drop-down menu, I want you to go to Employees. And you'll notice there's only one sub-menu. Employees. You do not need to click on New and Search. You can just click on Employees just right here. So since we're playing the role of administrator, we need to actually change our name. And so we're going to change our names to whatever your name may be instead of being Catherine Glass. So let's go ahead and scroll down. And we're going to find Catherine Glass, which apparently has an internal ID of -5. I'm not sure how that's possible, but yeah, there you have it. And we're going to click on Edit. Now be very, very careful about what we're going to go through, because I'm going to tell you specifically what to edit. If I do not tell you to change something or that you can change something, please do not change it. In particular, do not change the email address. That will make things very challenging moving forward if you change the email address. So we're just going to change a few things. Down here where it says name, not up here where it says employee ID, I want you to click on name. I want you to type in your first name and your last name. Suppose you could try to type in a middle initial if you really want to, but I'm not sure what that would do. And if you did this correctly, it should have changed the employee ID to your name now, as well as change those initials. Okay, so let's go ahead, just for fun, just because this is really, really boring and tedious if we don't have fun. We're going to do a couple of fun things here. So what I'd like for you to do is I'd like to change your job title to something else, to controller. I always use pretty much the same one. You can't use it, it's mine. I changed mine to accounting hero. Let's be honest, I'm your accounting hero. Yeah. or accounting villain, depending on your perspective. You either die a hero, live long enough to see yourself become the villain. That's Michael. Dark Knight. All right. So after you've done that, there's a couple changes. There's other things we can modify here, but there's not really necessity. The one thing that I want to make sure you change is I want you to change your name. Because when you start handing in assignments, I want your name to be at the top of the assignment. If your name's not at the top of the assignment, then I'm going to say, who is this? All right, that's going to be my question. So let's go ahead and click on save. And now you scroll down, you should be able to find your name in the list. There's Michael Barnes, ID 5. Okay. That same piece of information. I think if I scroll over, I can actually see that I'm an accounting hero now. So yeah, just the little things that give you joy. Okay, let's go ahead and do a couple of changes here. So first of all, on Brightspace, you're going to notice that there are a couple of image files here. So one of these says TS logo, which is a Truman State logo. And the other one is a blank file, which is just, as it sounds, a complete and total blank image file. We're going to actually upload those into Brightspace. So please download those onto your computer somewhere. And I'll explain the purpose of that here in just a second. We're actually going to do some modification of some documentation within NetSuite. So download those two images. Yes.
When I hit save, it says my password doesn't match.
Okay. So password from way back when. Is this when you're modifying the name?
Yeah.
Okay. So I would try logging back out and logging back in again. Yeah. I can't say that that's an issue that I've ever run into. Hold on a second. We're going to pause here. Okay, so let's go ahead and let's make some changes to some items that are in the images. So I want you to highlight documents. Again, do not click on documents, just move your mouse over it. Go to Files. We're going to go to File Cabinet. So over here, you're going to notice there's a link for images. I would like you to click on that link for images. And we're going to do two specific changes here, actually an addition and a change, all right? So the first thing I would like for you to do is I would like for you to upload that TS logo file. Now I'm going to make a caveat of this, okay? You can actually change this to a different file if you like. I've given you that file just for ease of use. Personally, I have a file that I use. The picture of a crab right here that I really, really like, okay? So I'm going to use that picture, right? But you're just going to click on Add File. And you're going to go to wherever that file is located on your computer. For me, I'm going to use that picture of the crab. You're going to use TS logo. If you would like, you can use a different image later on. The only parameters that I'm going to say is that it cannot be larger than 10 kilobytes in size, and it needs to be 200 pixels high or wide by 60 pixels high, which is actually a really small image. This is one of the NetSuite parameters for this. This is the logo that you will use for your paper head, for your letterhead, and it will actually appear on the documents. Or at least it should. I've been having some problems lately with it. But we're going to actually create a logo that we're going to set up our documents with. So you should have that TS logo file in there. And again, if you want to change this in the future and make it snazzy, that's absolutely fine. I just wanted to make sure we had something in place right now. The other thing we're going to do is we're going to actually make a change to this US flag file. The reason why is that all of our current documents within NetSuite currently use this US flag file as a background. And when I say it's gaudy, I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm a proud American, but it's not this one here. So I've got a file somewhere. Hold on. Let's try this right here. This is what the logo should look like right here. It would be really, really sad if I don't have this set up. Nope. Okay. I've tried 3 files. I'm going to quit clicking on files. So basically, the background is taken up by an image of the US flag. You cannot see any of the lettering because it's bright colors. So it's really, really hard to read the documents. So what I would like you to say, I know this is probably unpatriotic, but we're going to eliminate the image of the US flag and just put a blank document there, okay? So there's a couple ways we can go about it. I think the easiest way, rather than editing every single document, is just to edit this US flag file. So go ahead and click on edit. We're not going to change the file name. We're not going to change the folder or anything, but you'll see that there's an image currently associated with this image right here. And like I said, I don't have a problem with the US flag for the fact that it just is the background for the entire document. It's really problematic. So here's what I'd like for you to do. We're going to change the file. Click on choose file. And you're going to use that blank file that I put on bright space for you. So once you've put on choose file and uploaded or put in that blank file to be uploaded, scroll all the way down and click on save. And say it's going to overwrite the existing file. We're going to go ahead and do that. We're fine with that. Basically, all we want now is we want this to be blank right here. It says media item and there's nothing there. That's intentional because later on our documents are going to be nice and clean and easy to read. If you don't change this, I'm not going to grade you on that. It's just that your documents are going to look really, really outrageous. Okay, your documents will be really hard to read. Also, one other thing while we're here, you guys are going to be able to do this now, but let's just go ahead and I want to show you something that's also in the images file. So I'm going to go to documents file cabinet. Oops. What I get when I get to excited file cabinet. I'm going to click on that. And under demo files, this is actually the files that are associated with the demonstration software that we're using. You'll notice that there's a picture for Catherine Glass right here. So I downloaded this file, and the Catherine Glass file is actually pretty good. This is what Catherine Glass looks like, okay? This is Catherine Glass right there. So I'm not Catherine Glass, I'm Michael Barnes, so I decided I was going to go ahead and create my own file. So what do you guys think? Just the same reflection type right there, okay? So how do we actually go do that? Well, it's pretty easy. Once we're in that demo file, we can just add a file, and I'm going to add that Michael Barnes file. Oops, this folder right here. And you can do this on your own if you'd really like to change it. It won't come up in any of the paperwork. It's not going to be a thing. It's just something kind of, again, fun to do. And I've got that file added now, and so I can go back to my lists, employees, and go to that edit of that employee. I can go and actually edit the image that's associated with my file. Now, again, I don't think this will come up because your image is not going to be associated with any of the documents that you want, but if you really want to be a completionist, you can find your file. Let's see, and use that file instead. And that just gives me peace of mind that if anybody's going to see my files that are done in NetSuite, they're going to see me just reflected right there. Right there. All right. So let's go ahead and create our company now. So here's what I'd like for you to do. Is everybody up to date? We're in good shape right now. So let's go ahead and go to setup, highlight that, company. Then I want you to click on company information. So what I'd like for you to do is I'd like you to make a name of your own company. Now, the type of company I'd like for you to do is we're going to be doing a merchandising firm that also provides services. Now, this is not really a big technicality. You don't need to brainstorm too hard on this. Something that's just going to describe your company uniquely. I'd like you to use a unique name. I always use the same one because it's my goal in life to open a gaming store one day. So I'm going to use Team Clamps Cards and Games. Hence the picture of the crab. That's Clamps. And we're going to put that under both company name and legal name. Right. Once you've entered your company name and both company name and legal name, what I'd like for you to do is I'd like you to change your company logo. Currently it says US flags. You've got should be in there somewhere, should have your TS logo in there. I've got mine that says Clamps because I uploaded a different file, but you should have TS logo. Again, if you want to go back and fix that, change it to a different image. This would be something that you want to go back and edit to. But right now it's just going to be the Truman State logo, which is fine. You're not required to make the change. It's just if you want to. What you are required to change, though, you do need to make the change to TS logo here. But if you want to use a different file, you can go ahead and do that. Do not leave this as US flag. What we are required to change is we're actually going to make a change to our addresses here. So here's the requirement that we're going to be using for this particular course. We're going to be using a company that's going to be headquartered in San Francisco, California. So we need to make up an address in that area. So we're going to make up two addresses right now. We're going to make up a headquarters address, and then we're going to make up a warehouse address, which our warehouse is going to be for both shipping and returns. Okay, so we're going to use the same address here. So let's go ahead and under address, what I'd like for you to do is I'd like you to click on edit. And we're going to edit some of these fields. So we'll leave United States the same and headquarters the same. And then addressee, this is where I want you to type in your company name. Under phone number, you do not need to change that. It's not relevant because we're not going to make any phone calls. If you want to leave this as 98 Professor's Row, that's fine. I'm going to change mine to 101 Deers Avenue, or Deer Street, excuse me. And then city, you will need to change this to what I'm specifically putting up here. To be San Francisco. Not San Francisco, Massachusetts. To my knowledge, that's not a place. But San Francisco, California. And then zip code should be 94105. So check your address up here in the upper right to make sure that everything got updated to what you want. You can have a little bit of liberty with this one, but it does need to be San Francisco, California, and a zip code roughly around there. 94105 is the San Francisco zip code, which is why I use that. Once you've made those changes, go ahead and click on OK. Unfortunately, we've got a little bit of work ahead of us because we're going to be making multiple address changes. So for the next one, we're going to change our shipping address. We're going to leave this as United States and Warehouse Manager, but again, addressee is going to be your company name. Phone can be the same. For address, we're going to put this as a new address because we want to actually have a place for where our items are shipped and where we're shipped from, one warehouse. I'm going to call this 202 Otero Avenue. You can use a different address. It's not required that you use that one. But again, city should be San Francisco. State should be California. Zip code should be 9410 something. So once you finish that, you can click on OK. We're actually going to use that exact same address for our return address. So you can go ahead and start working on that. We're using one warehouse. If you're still working on it, that's fine. Just want to make sure that all your inputs are correct up here in your address field, and then click OK. And then, as I said before, we're going to edit our return address here. For the return address, make this attention of the warehouse manager because that's where the returns are going. For the addressee, going to be your company name. You do not need to put a phone number in unless you just absolutely want to. Go ahead and use the same address that you input in for your shipping address because it's one warehouse. I'm going to use 202 Otero Avenue again. San Francisco, California, 94105. So 3 address changes. Just want to make sure we have a little bit of consistency in where we're sending items. All these are going to be in San Francisco. One is going to be headquarters and one is going to be our warehouse. And the warehouse is where we get returns and where we ship from. So once you've got that done, go ahead and click on OK. Would not recommend saving that to Google. I got one more thing that I would like to change, okay? So we've currently set up our company information with our return and shipping addresses as our warehouses, but we've not actually set up our warehouse itself. So we're going to be operating primarily out of one warehouse for this organization. It's got multiple warehouses across the world. We're going to be, we're focused on one for our activities, okay? So here's what we're going to do is we're going to go to setup, company, and then we're going to scroll all the way down to warehouses. I think I may have scrolled right past. There we are, okay? About 3/4 of the way down, I think. It's not in the first zone. It's going to be under classifications. Everybody fine? Yes.
We have to hit save first.
What's that?
We have to hit save on this page first.
Yes, actually, it's probably a good idea. So I think if we don't save, then it will say, do you want to save? But good point. Yes, we do want to save. My apologies on that one. So setup, company, scroll down to warehouses. Once you get to warehouses, go ahead and click on it. So we're going to be operating out of United States West, which is our US 1 warehouse. What I'd like to do is I'd like to change the address information on this warehouse to what we currently have our warehouse address information at. So let's go ahead and click on edit. And then we don't need to actually change anything over here because this is actually consistent with what we want, but you will notice there's no address information for this warehouse. But we already know what the address information is because we just entered that from address information for the warehouse twice. So let's go ahead and make the changes. So in the address, the first field, where actually there's two of them, I guess I should show you. There's the address and the return address, which are going to be the same address. And leave United States is correct. For attention, we're going to make this warehouse manager again. Addressee, before we were putting Team Clamps, cards, and games, we're going to leave this as US 1 because this is actually a reference to a specific warehouse for operations, okay? Which is a subtle distinction, but an important one. We do not need to put in a phone. We do need to put in our address, which remember I used 202 Otero Avenue. You may have used something else, but it's probably listed there. San Francisco, California. 94105. Are you all getting the automatic drop downs for your address information now? That's one of the really nice things I like about it. It captures that information, so it makes the inputs much easier. You have to be careful because you don't want to input erroneous information, but it does make things much quicker. So once you've done that, go ahead and click OK to save and put that same information in your return address. Make sure your addressee is US 1, by the way. My apologies. It's going to put Team Clamps, cards, and games. I want to make sure that we have the warehouse. All right, so once you've done that, click OK. We're going to save this. And now we have a company set up. There's only one small problem. Can anybody notice what that problem currently is? Now, we're currently on status, but more importantly, you've actually gone through setting up your own company, setting up your own name, your own identity, but in all likelihood, it doesn't say anything up here about that. It still says Catherine Glass OERP Basics. Is everybody else on that right now? How do we fix that? Well, this is kind of the old trick that we're going to log in, log back out, or log out, log back in. So let's go ahead and log out. This will actually verify that you managed to save that information correctly. This will take us back to the NetSuite login page. We're just going to go ahead and click on login. Use your new password. I do not think it will have you answer any questions, you have any security questions. Once you get the password in, It should log you back in, and it should now have your name and your company name listed up there. And if you have gotten to that point, congratulations, you have finished the first assignment for this. Okay. Now, before we finish, before you get logged out and say, okay, well, I'm done with this. Okay. I do require evidence of it finishing the first assignment. So if you want to still make edits, if you still need to make updates, if you had some issues and need to go back, that's fine. This is not officially due until the beginning of next class period. My assumption is the majority of you are really wanting to finish this up so that you can actually have it over and done with. So let's talk about what you need to do. By the way, please make a note of this. Please make a note of this. I'm going to give you very specific instructions about how to save files for upload to Brightspace. When I give you a specific instruction, you are not to deviate that in any way, shape, or form. Deviate from that in any way, shape, or form. This will not be a big deal for this particular assignment, but for future assignment deliverables, I'm going to specify PDFs because the files that NetSuite will save as are not readable in Brightspace. So as my grader wants to go through and grade to make sure you did everything, if you upload the default file, we can't open that in Brightspace, and it's a pain to open even if you download it. So make sure you make a note of this. Whenever I tell you about a deliverable, you have to follow my exact instructions for the deliverable. If you do not follow my exact instructions for the deliverable, you will not receive credit for that particular assignment. Okay, everybody on board with that? Okay. So for this one, it's pretty straightforward. First of all, we're going to do a screen capture. There's a couple ways to do this. You can actually use the print screen function, but my current favorite way is to use the snipping tool. So if you click down on the bar, it says type here to search, type in SNIP, and you should see the snipping tool app come up. So how many people have used the snipping tool before? So quite a few. If you've never used it, you're in for a treat. This is how you do screen captures very easily. So once you click on new, and you'll notice that the screen kind of grays out and that you're going to move it up here to right above where it says Oracle NetSuite. Now, this little cursor right here, it looks like a crosshairs. And you're just going to click and drag it. And you're going to make sure you capture a good part of your home screen right here. So once you click and drag that across, and then once you unclick, it will fill in the screen and have that saved. So now you have that picture captured. Plus, you can copy that over. So what I'd like for you to do, this is the important part. These are instructions that I was talking about before. Please do not upload this as a picture file. What I would like for you to do instead is to go to Microsoft Word. Open a new file. And if you use the snipping tool, it should be copied over, so you can just click Control-V or paste. And copy that into the Word file. Once you've done that, save that Word file, upload that to the assignment folder that's in Brightspace, and you complete your first assignment. So while you're wrapping up, I just want to reiterate, these are going to be very simple assignments. You're just going to have to follow directions, but do please make sure you're diligent about taking notes, especially when we stop to talk about something, because again, the procedures themselves are pretty simplistic, but the rationale behind the procedures, as well as understanding the process of what we're doing and how it relates to this course, will become really important. Later on for NetSuite, when we get to the second part, we're going to be talking about how to actually run revenue and purchasing transactions, which will relate really closely to what we're going to talk about with respect to the revenue and purchasing modules in this course. So it's important to be able to cross-reference that information and make sure you understand why we're doing what we're doing. So that's going to be what I'm ultimately concerned about you having. This is just kind of evidence that you actually walked along the process with me. All right. So once you've uploaded that to Brightspace, you are done. You can log out. Have a good day. I'll see you on Friday. We do have Chapter 4 homework on Friday, as well as our next Excel activity.